Good evening, and welcome to the 7th Annual ICAM Candidates Forum. Tonight we have the pleasure of speaking with the 4 candidates for the Ipswich Board of Selectmen, 2 incumbents and 2 challengers. From my left, Bill Kraft, Bill George, Phil Goguen, and Ed Rauscher. Each of the 4 candidates will have a couple minutes to give you an overview, an opening statement, if you will, of their thoughts on the job and why they would like your vote. And then we'll go through a series of questions, giving each of them a couple minutes to respond. And then we'll wrap up with a short conclusion with a couple minutes each. So let's start with Mr. Kraft. Give us a couple minutes on your thoughts on the position and why we should vote for you.
Thank you. Hello, Ipswich. My name is Bill Kraft. My wife and I have lived in Ipswich since 1970. This is where we put down roots. We've raised our family. Ipswich is a great town. I value the people and the character of Ipswich. As we strive to improve our community, it's important to maintain economic diversity while we build on our many strengths. Those of you who are listening probably know them, but let me run through a few that I believe help to define us. A long and impressive history, breathtaking scenery with one-of-a-kind beaches and water vistas, commercial shell fishing, lots of devoted parents who work dedicated and provide dedicated service to the schools. We have several prominent corporations, an increasingly vibrant restaurant and brewing sector, and historic homes, and one of the things that I feel is extremely important, a town meeting form of government, which, like our old homes, is worth preserving. To make participatory government work, we have to get involved. We have to listen, we have to weigh, and we have to help set priorities in the best interest of the community. I've made it a point not to just talk about involvement, but to get involved as a long-term member of the Finance Committee. Just recently completed 2nd term on the Board of Selectmen. I've served during that time as voluntary interim town manager and was instrumental in managing the transition to the current town manager. We're facing challenging economic future with many difficult decisions on the horizon. I believe that my background and demonstrated experience in service to Ipswich make me a worthy candidate to continue on the Board of Selectmen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kraft. Mr. George, couple minutes.
Hi, my name is Bill George. I'm a qualified candidate for the Board of Selectmen. I was re-elected 5 consecutive times in the 80s and 90s. And in itself doesn't mean much, except that I can handle the task. I want to contribute again to make the Board of Selectmen more responsive and more transparent. I retired from the board in '97 to do the Ipswich, Florida routine with an eye to retiring there permanently. Unfortunately, my wife Nan, who is well known in Ipswich, having served on the school committee and the youth commission, became a victim of lung cancer. She passed away in 2010. This obviously caused a big change in my plans. My family was all in Ipswich, and I wanted to stay here. My yearbook style data, that's what I'll call what I did and what I shouldn't have done or whatever, is in my, I have a Facebook page created just for this, Bill George for Selectmen. I'll repeat, Bill George for Selectmen. Look it up, and that'll tell you all my doings beforehand. The only real background requirement in this particular case is that I know the general history of the town. I'll match myself up with anyone. I understand what makes people tick and what can move through all the stratas of Ipswich. I'm not a one-issue candidate. I want to add enthusiasm and the ability to get along with all people on the board. And I think that the board needs some approachability. This is what I hear from my wanderings. It appears to me that they need a collective dose of enthusiasm. I don't think the board is enthusiastic, is involved, as they should be. And I'm volunteering to help change that.
Thank you, Mr. George. We'll get into some more details.
Done already?
Yeah, yeah. 2 minutes goes fast. Mr. Goguen.
I'm a politician,
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Phil Goguen, Kingfisher Road. Been in Ipswich for 53 years. All my kids have grown up here. They're all over the country right now. I am the only person running for selectman that doesn't have a selectman experience. However, for the last 6.5 years, I've been to just about, I might have missed 10 to 12 selectmen's meetings. I can't say that they're happy about that, but that's a fact. The people that are looking at me right now know why I'm running. I'm running for selectman because I see things and I feel things, and Bill George just hit it on the head, approachable. People seem to come to me to talk to me about problems that they will not go to the selectmen with. And it's a very unfortunate thing. The economy has been bad. I got involved because in 2009, my wife of 58 years marriage, and I got into real problems with finances. Property values dropped. I came into the building because there was supposedly help. I walked down and I talked to 3 people and I said, what's going to happen with property values dropping? How is the town going to get by? I got 3 answers, all the same. We'll raise the taxes. And at the very same time, the town people and employees and the manager at that time was giving raises out. While people were losing their homes, out of work, 2 family incomes were down to 1 or not at all.
Okay, thank you, sir. We'll get into some specifics and we'll get to some of these questions. Mr. Rauscher, please.
Yes, thank you, Tom. First, let me say thank you to ICAM for staffing this event and having this live for the voters of Ipswich. So, good evening, people of Ipswich. I'm Edward Rauscher. I live at 44 High Street. I grew up in Ipswich, and I have 17 years of service on the Board of Selectmen. And I believe my record demonstrates a commitment of leadership and to be a constructive, hands-on member of the Board of Selectmen. As one example, I was the lead advocate to turn this building into the town hall when it was given up by the schools in favor of the high school, middle school. And I continued to work on that project with the committee that reconstructed this building and made it what it is today, a thriving senior center. As I said, this studio from which you're watching us, and all the offices that house our town government. You know, one of the central issues that we need to confront today is the growing tax and utility burden on our seniors in the middle class. It's true that we already have some tax relief for seniors, but I think we can do more. It's my goal to work with the Finance Committee and town staff over the summer to come up with a comprehensive proposal that provides relief for those on a fixed or limited income. Other areas of focus this year will be in economic development, a review of our charter and bylaws, and my continued work on improving our sidewalks, streets, and bike paths wherever possible. I work hard as a selectman, and I serve because I enjoy the work. I'm committed to preserving the unique character of Ipswich, and I ask for your vote next Tuesday. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So, Mr. George, let's start with you. As we know, there's been a lot of talk about a new school in town, and for some years there's been discussion about a public safety police fire combination facility. Tell us generally what your vision is to accomplish those two. Take them if you would.
I get 2 minutes only. I could go on for a half a day on that,
Yeah, well,
but I'll try to cut it down. You know, they're in the middle of that process. I've been on a lot of those ad hoc committees, building committees and so forth, and they've got a tougher job this time than they've ever had. And I hear now that there's another problem added to the mix, and I think that's a real problem. And
What's your thought about the school? Just take the schools.
what's my thought about it?
About the schools.
I don't have a, I mean, I like the school system. I've been a supporter of the school system. And my wife was on the school committee. I attend meetings occasionally. And I will help them with whatever they come up with. I'm not in the technical of whether to put it on the over near the Hart House or out near here or there. These are things they have to do. But when they come out, I will support whatever they do.
Okay. Mr. Goguen, your thoughts on the two projects, the school project and the public safety project? Just your overall vision. if you
I'll
would.
take the public safety project
Sure.
first. It should be first. Heard so many stories going back and forth, committees, going to do this, going to do that, nothing's happening, and you have to have safety. If I had to make three choices of what has to be the priorities of the town, one would be safety, the other would be health, and then the third would be technology. As far as the schools go, I think that everything that's going on right now should be frozen and give everybody a chance to digest what it's going to do to the town and the debt service of the town. The town cannot continue, and I'm not saying just Ipswich, but all towns cannot continue to spend the money that isn't there. It has to come from the taxpayers, and the taxpayers can only be squeezed so much. There just isn't enough there. People that used to have two jobs are down to one, and the overall economy right now may seem good, but if you have another downturn with the debt service that the town is carrying, we're in trouble. So that's pretty much my feeling.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Rauscher.
Thanks, Tom. So anyone that's even paying just a little bit of attention over the last couple of weeks knows that the compressed time frame that the school building committee get into over the last agreed to about a year and a half ago has really created some headaches for the tri-boards. That means the finance committee, the school committee, and the selectmen to try to figure out what the best proposal, if any, is to move forward. And although the schools have already voted on one large school, my particular preference would be to keep the small community schools we have. Having said that, there's an argument for a large school that has economies of scale, and if the right site is chosen, perhaps that's the way to go. But I do have concerns with the site selection. I do believe that the way that the sites were laid out, it puts a disadvantage to one of the sites, and that's why I volunteered just a couple weeks ago to work with a member of the school committee and the finance committee and the town planner to see if we can work on some of the issues at the Goguen site to help relieve some of the traffic concerns and the playing fields, the replacement of playing fields that will be an additional cost with the former layout of the schools. So, I spent more time on that than the public safety complex because it's the project that's further along. But for the public safety complex, I'll just say this. I was the person that pressed for the tri-boards to agree that if the Winthrop School is abandoned as a school and they move off-site, that we agree as tri-board, and we have agreed, that site will be at least open for the town to look at as a public safety complex. So we're a few years away, but we have that site should it transpire that the Winthrop School site's available.
Okay. Mr. Kraft.
Thank you. With both of the issues, the elementary school project and public safety complex, the issue of cost and site are foremost in my mind. In terms of the town, I think our government and indeed our schools are here not because we have needs, but because we are trying to meet the needs of residents, taxpayers. On that basis, I would put the school project as the first priority. I think the greatest number of people in town will be affected by that. I think we have a distinct requirement and responsibility for our young people. We were fortunate to be selected with the Winthrop School from the State Department, the School Building Assistance Group. We have been granted the first phase of involvement. We have consultants. We have a feasibility study, which has been going on for about a year plus. I think Mr. Rauscher is correct that it is only recently that the issues of the way that project will affect the community have really been open to discussion and debate. I think location is going to continue to be an issue. The school committee has decided that one single institution is the most effective way to provide equity to all elementary school students. For years, Winthrop has been a concern. My first role in town was as chairman of the School Building Needs Committee years and years ago, and Winthrop was considered an issue even then. We now have an opportunity in the first blush to do something for Winthrop. As that project has evolved, we now are able to do something that may include students of both Winthrop and Doyen. I think it only fair, though, that all those years that Winthrop has been dealing with cramped space and difficulties with facilities, to all of a sudden make a new school and move it to the Doyen site when in fact there is a large concentration of people downtown. You see the involvement of those parents and indeed the town and the play area that was built behind it, and I think we have to respect that. As Mr. George said, I'm prepared to look and be positive about anything. The public safety building has been with us for a long time. It is absolutely true that both police and fire are working in completely unrealistic facilities. But if the school project does go forward with the support of the voters, I suspect it will be 2 or more years before both site and plans will be ready for voter reaction.
Thank you. Let me just throw out a sort of general question and start with you, Mr. Goguen. Mindful that elected officials set policy and paid professionals implement that policy, can you give us 2 or 3 specific areas that you would like to focus on for the Board of Selectmen or the town's executives to improve?
To improve?
Yep. Specific areas.
I would
2 or 3.
say I would hit on something that Mr. Rauscher has brought up, and that is the quality of life of the seniors and people that are on limited income, the people that are trying to bring up their kids and give them a better quality. But what's happening is you can't be all things to all people, and as a result, the town continues to raise the taxes to a point that it's unsustainable to the working man, the middle class. The seniors, when it gets to a point that the seniors have to choose between cutting half their medication to get by and keeping in mind that the seniors are living longer. It's not 65 or 70 anymore. It's 70, 75.
So the specific you're talking about is tax relief.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh,
Anything
yeah.
else?
I think tax relief, concentration on the tax relief by the Board of Selectmen, Finance Committee, and the School Committee all together would be a step in the right direction.
Mr. Rauscher.
Thanks, Tom. I think the primary responsibility of the elected officials, the first and the last, is to make sure that we have an engaged electorate. To whatever degree we can do that by making sure that our committees are staffed with varied groups that people get a chance to serve. I think that's important. My sense is that because of busy lives, there's a growing number of people who are sort of one-issue folks. It's public safety, or it's the schools, or it's whatever it is. And I think that's not healthy for the town. So I think engaging the public is probably our primary role. But getting specifically to your question on policy, I think there are a couple issues that are key. The tax and utility burden on our lower income and our seniors is important to look at. And that's why about a week ago I sent an email to the town manager asking to sort of put this on our radar. So that we look at that in this planning cycle in the summer, as I said in my opening remarks, to bring that forward as a proposal going into next year's budget session. In addition to that, I think we're challenged with a reality, and that is that, when I first got on the board 21 years ago, the split in revenue between the town and the school side was 55-45. And now it's something like
55 schools,
I'm
45
sorry,
town.
55% for the school and 45 for the town.
And now it's more like 65.
Now it's 68, 32, 65, 35, something in that regard. I think a lot of the causes for that have to do with the legislature. So I'm not suggesting that it's a problem that we can answer on our own, but I do think it's a reality we have to confront so that we can maintain the town services in addition to the excellent schools that
When
we
you
have.
say legislature, you mean unfunded
Message-
state mandates?
Yeah, I believe that's a big cause of it, Tom, actually. If you look at the gap, the foundation gap funding they used to have, that's sort of gone away, hasn't it? So.
Okay. Mr. Kraft?
Well, I would agree that the role of the state in terms of educational funding is a continuing problem, something that we've got to work on. We also have a formula in which state aid is distributed, and we have traditionally been on the low end of that. We've worked with our representative, our local senators, and that continues to be rolling around, and it is something that we have, and I have personally been most concerned about. I think the proposal that, and actually I always like to give credit where it's due, Mr. Goguen brought this to our attention. There are a number of towns that have home rule petitions which have attempted to cap taxes for low-income retirees, and it's something that we should certainly look at. It is something that we've distributed information to the board and taking a look at that. The problem, however, is that if Ipswich is going to remain vital and a target for investment, whether it's private retail investment or residential investment, we have to make certain infrastructure improvements along the way to keep us competitive as a community. And I think this is where the Board of Selectmen have the most important role, is not to be a one or two issue group, but to take a look at the full spectrum of things that we probably need to address over time and figure out how to present those to the town so that they are manageable over time. We haven't even talked about issues of Brown's Well and our utilities, which also will demand attention.
Brownswell groundwater?
It's not the groundwater, it's the manganese. And that's our most productive source of water. We have to sort of bring it in and mix it up with reservoir water, which isn't always available. We have all of those issues which come before the board, and it's the forum in which the community, and we would hope reasoned people, can come together and present to the town the most effective set of proposals at tolerable cost.
Okay. Mr. George?
There's not
Two-
much left for me on the bone
Two,
there, is
two or
it?
three,
That-
just to remind you of the question, 2 or 3 specific
I don't
areas.
get that question. Another question coming?
It's the same question.
Same
2 or
question.
3 specific policies that you would take on if you're
Well, I
elected.
have a 5-point program that I'm not going to bring up tonight because it's not friendly to the present board.
All right. Well,
And I'm
see if you
gonna-
can
I'm
answer
gonna-
my question, though.
Well,
2 or
I-
3 specific.
I can't answer it because there isn't much, there's nothing what to do there, really, you know. I agree with pretty much they've said everything.
Okay.
But I don't think the board gets its message out to the people. That's the big problem. That's why I'm running. They don't meet often enough. They don't meet long enough. They don't listen to people. And that's what I want to change. So it all fits together here. I mean, it all melds together. But if the board, I just don't think that they give the appearance of caring about the average person or any person, as a matter of fact. And I think because they don't meet enough, and that situation, there's 5 points, and they're quite controversial, and I don't want to get them stirred up here because I'm not that kind of a guy. But they're going to be brought up during the
We
first
can take
year
it.
of my
We
term.
can take it. Give it to
We're
us.
adults.
Have at it, Bill.
Well, I know
Fine.
you're adults, and so am I. I've been a politician all my life.
Well, what-
You don't bring
I'm
up
not a
things.
politician, but I'd be happy to hear what you
Yeah,
have to
later.
say.
George.
Well, you come to the meeting.
let me ask you, what are the 5 points?
I'm not telling them tonight. So you can
Okay.
you can draw your own conclusions, though.
Okay.
Yeah, some of them are quite familiar to Bill Kraft, I know, and they're I've got to live. If I get elected, I got to live with 4 people that are on the board now, and I don't want to make real serious enemies out of them, and that's why I'm withholding them. We haven't got time.
We're all big boys
I didn't
here.
get well. You may be big boys, but I didn't get half of my time on the
We've
first
been
question.
living with the town moderator for several years.
Yeah.
We can do it.
I'm
But,
just following
that
the
might
cue
be one
here.
of the
We're all getting
questions.
the
You
same
never
time.
know. One of the 5 points, maybe.
All right. Let's see.
Is it
let's
Phil or-
start with Mr. Goguen. What's your understanding of the purpose of the dissolution of the Waterways Commission at the beginning of this year, and what do you feel should be the roles and responsibilities of the new Waterways Commission?
I really don't know too much about it.
Okay. All right.
I've been concentrating on other things, but I have listened to a particular gentleman in town who has done a lot of work, and that's what I would do, is I would tend to rely on someone that has the experience, the expertise, and knows how to get the answers, and can speak without, $5 words. Put it out there. That's what the direction I normally do. I have my own feelings, but I try and gather as much information that makes sense to me and common sense to me, and go from there. If I got another 30 seconds, I'd like to agree with Mr. George. He was jumping around a word, but the word to me is communications. Communicate, 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 have more forums that the public can come in and speak their mind without being looked at like you're bothering us.
I agree.
Okay.
Thank
You all
you.
set?
Yep.
Okay. Mr. Rauscher, the Waterways Commission?
Yeah, thanks,
Tell
Tom.
us your thoughts about that.
Yeah, so as some may know, and I should recognize him, Gary Champion brought some issues before the board before I was elected to the board, and I have to give him credit for his passion on some of these issues. And when I was elected, there was a lot of discussion, but there really hadn't been much action on it. So we agreed to a couple things. One was we reorganized the committee to be a stakeholder committee. And what that means is, instead of having just at-large members, we have a member from the outboard club, a member from the yacht club, a general boater, that sort of thing, so that you have representation across the spectrum of users of the waterways. I think that was a positive step. One of the specifics in your question is, what do we feel like the role of the Waterways Committee is? My view on that hasn't changed, and that is that the role of the Waterways Committee should be to work closely with the Director of Public Safety, and with periodic advice of the Board of Selectmen, they should make policy recommendation on the waterways rules and regulations and policies. I don't agree with some who would say that the Board of Selectmen should engage directly and intimately in each and every policy decision. I think that's unnecessary because the current system works of citizen involvement. You talk about citizen involvement. There's one where if the board was handling it, then we would have one less opportunity for citizens to be involved. So I'm not in favor of that. So it's unnecessary, and it's actually super time consuming, and the Board of Selectmen should focus on other more important issues. So that's how I feel.
Okay. Mr. Kraft?
I think the waterways in Ipswich are really important issues, and I think that they require people who have the time and the interest to really drill into everything from the condition of the mooring structure, how they're distributed, the allocation of specific mooring areas within the town. Actually, that's what got us into this discussion, really, was the question of perhaps too much influence on the part of the Ipswich Bay Yacht Club. And if you break down the membership at one time, it did turn out that through at-large members and others, they seemed to have a disproportionate influence. I'm not sure that that was good or bad. We were never able to see that there was any inappropriate decision-making, but in terms of the look of the committee, it raised a number of questions, and we also believe that there were opportunities for other stakeholders to be considered and perhaps play a more prominent and balancing role.
Because it was one-sided to yacht club members?
It turned out that there were a number of yacht club members in the size and shape of the previous Waterways Commission. Now the committee has been expanded. There are more members. I think it's important that there be general participation. And it's not just the river and the moorings, it's also inland waters as well. And the role of that committee in terms of policy and being able to create policy that can be defended before any forum. They report and will report to us through the chief. But I believe that and hopefully we've made strong appointments who will give it the attention and the time that's really required to make those important decisions.
And is it the case that some of their responsibilities are dictated by state statutes or Code of Mass Regulations?
The, the statutory oversight is extensive. What can be done, how it can be done, what should be considered and how. All of that, as I say, takes time and a level of attention to detail that I believe personally the selectmen, unless they are going to micromanage that and spend more of their time, it's not that it's not important, but to have citizens who really drill into it is important, as we do with our electric light department and other areas.
Okay. Mr. George?
Yeah, I agree basically with what Bill said. I think this is one issue where the town likes what the people are doing at the present time. And I personally don't know much about boats. I know we have too many all over the East Coast, you know, and
Too many?
but I
disagree.
I'm not a boater. I'm not a boater. I am on the boat. The two best days of my life, when I bought it and when I sold it. And,
That's a typical story.
yeah, I'm a typical guy. But anyway, no, I like the way they're handling it, and it's a tough job. There's too many boats and not enough water.
And there are a lot of boaters who are ready to complain. So
And I guess that's not one of the 5 points about which we didn't.
I
find
guess
out.
No,
not,
that isn't
yeah.
one of the 5 points, as a matter of fact.
Well, we'll keep fishing and see if we can get a
Well,
few
you
of
got to
them out.
elect me. You got to elect me to see what the 5 points are.
Well done.
because
Very
then
good.
then
If
he
I
will
don't get
reveal the
elected,
5
they're going to
points.
disappear.
All right.
Are you going to do
Don't forget,
climate
I'm a
action
veteran
next?
of the K Club debates, and I've been around, you know. And,
Are you finished, Mr. George, or is there something else you want to say?
am I what?
Are you finished, or is there something else you
Oh,
want to say
I
to
could
this
speak
question?
for an hour, but I won't, you know.
All right, so let's go on to the next question, and this has to do with economic development in town. There are a number of empty properties downtown. Tell us what you think the selectmen can do. And Mr. Rauscher, I'm going to start with you.
Yep.
I'm going to start with him. Okay, you're looking at me.
That's the plan. We went through this in the beginning. Okay, what the selectmen can do to help businesses flourish, and what would you do to attract businesses to town?
Sure, Tom, thanks. I'm the Board of Selectmen's representative to the Economic Advisory Group, and that's a group working with the business leaders from EBSCO and New England Biolabs and others to help assist the town in shaping economic policy. And the group is working to refine the strategy that already exists, because there's already a pretty good strategy. It's right here before me, the Economic Development Strategy, a report that was developed last year, and it was really just an outgrowth of a report that had existed previously. So this is it's a living document, and there are some really good recommendations in it. But the way I mentioned that we're there to refine that economic strategy. For instance, we're working on a plan to attract businesses that have already been identified as desirable to the town, to the downtown. And that can include something as simple as expedited permitting, or reaching out to businesses that we seek to attract to town. So that's one example of the kind of recommendation we made. And last week we presented an outline of the marketing strategy, the essence of which is that we have a lot of good marketing assets in town, but what's needed is more coordination among groups. And to get to the heart of your question, the core of our recommendation, actually, it's funny that we should get this question, is that the Board of Selectmen and the town manager should be more directly involved in economic development. So what that looks like is that the Board of Selectmen and the town manager would work to pull these groups together, these disparate groups that I mentioned. That's one area that is important, to bring them together to make sure that our economic development strategy is comprehensive and cohesive. And another area is specifically to work with the downtown businesses and landlords to make sure that we're promoting one of the central tenets of the economic development strategy, which is, as much as possible, retail on the first floor, and then offices and homes on the second floor. So I look forward to continue to work on that group, and I think the Board of Selectmen should play a key and central role, and that's part of our recommendation.
Okay, Mr. Kraft.
I agree with Mr. Rauscher. I think the selectmen have an absolutely essential role to play in economic development. To the extent that there is going to be some kind of a backbone that's going to coordinate these efforts and help to provide overall coordination, but also to keep in mind what makes Ipswich attractive. I mean, we have to have good, stable government. We have to have schools that are functioning, that people are proud of. There are a number of things that we are doing now and working on that are absolutely critical to this. One of the things that has come out both in the earlier study that was done and in the current report is that we have a great story, but it's one of the best kept secrets in eastern Massachusetts. We don't really have a either a department or volunteers that are focusing on perfecting the story in the first case so that we all agree and can share that this is really reflective of where Ipswich is now but could be in the future, how we are prepared to provide intelligent and helpful zoning and code enforcement, which is one of the things that I keep hearing more often, that we really have to be helpful in how our various statutory limitations are explained and how we can support and make that an easier process. There also is the question of tourism. People think that we have tremendous assets. If we're going to have a tremendous influx in tourism, we have to do something about traffic flow and parking. And these are things that are right in the domain of the Board of Selectmen, and we need to be thinking forward and add those to
streets. Paving the streets.
paving streets, all of the things that make us attractive for investment. And we have to do that in a way that we get back to the taxpayers who are going to be paying for this, because they are the ones who have to agree that this makes sense for the future of Ipswich, that we haven't destroyed the character in the process. In fact, we enhance what we have and do it again at something we can all agree we can afford. And I don't think we want to lose the economic diversity that has made us such an important place.
Okay. Mr. George.
Yes, I wanted to pick up on Bill's the last point, I think. I think most of the people that are in the business community don't feel that the selectmen have much business dealing with them, telling them how to make a living. What they want is cooperation from the boards, the commissions. This is the big thing, the licensing boards, all the peripheral activities, not necessarily from the selectmen themselves. Yeah, we have to do what Bill said, to keep the town attractive and all that, but they don't want the selectmen in their lives, and most people don't anyway, and they don't especially, and they're not angry about it, but when they call town hall, they want to get good answers. They want to hear what kind of forms they have to fill out and this and that. They could be more proactive in that. Other than that, it's a laissez-faire. I don't think the Ipswich selectmen, should tell you whether to have a men's clothing store downtown. I don't think that's up to their prerogative to do that, and that's about where I stand.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Goguen.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Let's face it, in retail right now, even the big box stores are hurting because it's being cut into by the web. The two biggest retailers are Walmart and Amazon. So a small store, a retail store in a town like Ipswich, and there are many, many towns like Ipswich where you can drive through and you'll see one section that's doing all right, and then you'll run into boarded up stores. So Ipswich is indifferent with this problem. The difference is to try and improve it would be to, and I've given this a little thought because it was on the question, when people come through Ipswich, they have to go through Ipswich. They can't slow down, go anyplace, because there's a main road that just goes right through it. And if they try to find a place to park and stop and shop, it's not happening. Yeah, from the other end that I think Mr. George touched on is communications, again, with the selectmen. I listen to the selectmen and I say, that guy's never been in business. You see somebody in a store and you start talking to them, and you have to realize that you could be the first person they've talked to all day. But you have to have the empathy of the people that are working there and the owners of the building. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Lastly, and I'll start with you, Mr. Kraft. You may recall that about 5 years ago, the town passed a climate action plan. And I'm wondering where you stand. Give us your thoughts on implementing that plan that was passed 5 years ago today.
I support every effort that the town can and has made in terms of conservation. For those who have taken the time either to go online or picked it up earlier when it was discussed in 2011, we have not only a document that outlines what could be done, some say it is an exhaustive document. It's about 100 pages long and covers everything that is currently known and could be done about conservation. Having worked with the town for a long time and listening to what we've been talking about tonight, we can't do everything at once, but we can do something at once. Even before that document was approved at town meeting, we already have photovoltaics on the roof of the town hall. We have encouraged our electric light department to offer incentives for renewable energy. We have, and actually I salute you, Mr. Moderator, for working with high school students to bring what is in many towns an extremely controversial issue about banning plastic bags and styrofoam. But because this was spearheaded and a great intersection of our young people learning about what democracy is all about and how to make their town meeting work in ways that are productive, they have brought a citizens petition to the town. We support that. There are also Article 21 is a suggestion by a number of concerned citizens that we have a conservation committee established that would spend more time in oversight and prodding the selectmen and town organizations and individuals to do more about conservation. We all have to participate in that. As I've had money, I've been replacing windows because you got to walk the talk. And if you can do more to conserve locally and individually, that is an important part of this whole equation. It's education, it's constant reiteration of its importance, and I believe that's something we have done and will continue to do as a result of Article 21.
Good. Mr. George. Yes,
Okay,
please.
what I think of it basically seems to be what most people think about it. They passed it in 2011 and it's 2016 and nothing is done about it. And quite frankly, I think this is where Bill and I disagree on other issues, but, legitimately. And I just, I think that, I think the whole, I don't want another committee in town. I don't want another 12-man board, a 12-person board, going into this again. And I just don't think that, I think we're doing enough presently. I don't think we need to add any more to it. I just think that, we're not supposed to get into other issues here and all that, but I think that we are doing a pretty darn good job on this sort of thing. And I don't see carrying it to another level of extreme, in my opinion. It's unproven science, and there's all kinds of questions, and I just want to look at it with a very critical eye, I'll say that.
Cautious.
Yeah.
Cautious.
Well, even more than caution. Caution to worse than caution. How's
Okay.
that?
All right. Thank you. Mr. Goguen.
One of the things I did want to talk about tonight, and I forgot, but it came under my second priority, and that was health. And that would bring the water situation front page. It should be on every agenda on the water situation, because as I read, it's not just Ipswich, it's the population growth and the runoff, the drainage, and the quality of water, and it needs something, unfortunately, like Flint, Michigan, to bring it to the forefront. And it should be right out in front of every meeting, find out what's happening with the water. We have one woman in town who is really up on it. She used to be at every selectman's meeting, and dynamite lady. I would encourage her to run for selectwoman sometime, but she's hit it on the head with the water. We have to start conserving the water and watching the water quality so that we don't have to, I think it was Newburyport, it was one town closely, they were giving out bottles of water for the people. So maybe there's a way that you can filter the water better for drinking water. I don't know, but it is a problem, and I think it's probably probably the most prominent problem that we have right in front of us right now.
Okay, thank you.
It reminds me, thank you, Mr.
Would you like
Moderator,
some more
that I
water?
need some more delicious Ipswich Town water.
you
No, not yours. That's okay. And I'll cover that in a minute, but let me get to the heart of your question first on the climate action plan. So in a period of time where I wasn't on the board, I happened to be on the committee, the committee for CEUCP, and now it escapes me exactly what that abbreviation means. But I was on that committee, and I made the initial presentation to the Board of Selectmen in 2009 when I wasn't on the board. So I'm a supporter of the climate action plan. Unlike Mr. George, I don't think it's voodoo science. I think it's well proven science. And furthermore, it doesn't have to kill our budget to conserve energy and do what we can for the climate. I want to make one other point too. If you read that report, and I read it again today, skimmed it, there is a suggestion that a committee stay in place, and it actually is still in place formally. They haven't done much, but they are in place. So this idea of having a climate action committee that's going to, the Article 21 to which you referred, it's already a mechanism of the plan, so I'm in favor of it. And I'm committed to working closely with that group through the summer to come up with some proposals. In fact, in January, as chair of the Electric Light Committee, before Article 21 even came up, I worked with some of the authors of the original report in putting climate action and energy conservation on the front burner, if you will, for the electric department. So it's been an item in every one of our committee meetings, and we deal with it, and we're building a better plan moving forward. Just on the water issue that Phil mentioned, I happen to also be on the water subcommittee, and I invite Phil to come to our subcommittees. We're working on right now on a scope for an overview of the entire system. Mr. Kraft mentioned that we have a manganese issue at one of our wells, the most productive well. In addition, we have a 30-year-old plant. So we're working on the needs of our water department, and we should know something by the fall on what a series of recommendations might be for the water department.
Okay, thank you. So now I'm going to ask you all to go in order. Take a couple minutes to sum up your positions, and need not focus on any one of these questions, but just give us an overall general idea of why we should vote for you. And keep in mind there'll be no rebuttal, so you feel free to have any one of those 5 points, Mr. George.
They're not going to come out tonight.
Okay, as you
You
wish.
should have been at the old days when they would have had to come out, but not tonight. We don't have time enough. No time here.
Okay,
Go
Mr.
ahead.
Kraft.
By way of conclusion, first of all, I'm very optimistic about the future of Ipswich. We've had a great town for a long time. It's provided opportunity for a lot of its residents, its young people. I think we can continue to do that. I think in the current era, we have a distinct responsibility to our residents in thinking about how we use our dollars, how we set priorities so that we all get the most bang for the buck and keep our taxes as stable and with as little shock value as possible. I think the schools have a real challenge ahead of them because we've not only voted an override, we've voted another $1 million plus for a turf field for the football stadium, and now we may be a year from now considering a major investment in elementary education. There is going to be a lot of time for citizens to investigate, get comfortable with the final proposal. It will require citizens to be engaged in that and think seriously about what that means. There are benefits economically, but it will cost money. During the period of time that I was acting interim town manager, which went on for several months during the transition to our current town manager, we had a number of issues involving wastewater, and also the my attention was drawn to the condition of Brown's Well and where we were going in the future. That has continued to be a major priority of mine. If you recall budget hearings, for those of you that watch them with water, what we focused on, based on my questioning, was what is our testing, how frequently is it done, how confident can we be in the quality of our water today, and what are we doing, again, planning for the future. I fear that it's going to cost us some money in our rate structure, and we need to be aware of that, warn people about it, but try to manage it in a way that places the least unexpected burden on our ratepayers.
Thank you. Mr. George?
Okay, can you give me time to finish this time? Really, I've practiced this. These are 2-minute speeches, and I didn't get to half of my introduction. So, okay.
There goes
My
10
closing
seconds.
statement, I'm going to ask for your vote. I'm in sort of a tough tactical position. By that, I mean it's delicate. I got 4 people. If I get elected, I'm going to have to serve with these guys. I know them, they know me, and I don't want to get them too riled up. I want to do things on a professional basis. That's part of my plan, really.
Go ahead, be unprofessional.
Well, you're not unprofessional. No, you're not. I didn't say that. If I did, I didn't mean it. All of these people are great people, fine characters. We have no problem in town with anything like that. These are just we see things differently. We have different personalities and different ways to solve the problem. I don't tend to go for all the reports, the book proposals, and all the studies and so forth, and long-range programs. I'm more of a down-to-earth guy that gets around and you can take to the bank one fact that you can't do anything on a board of selectmen alone. You can't. You got to have 4 people with you, or at least 3. I will bring up these 5 points that I've been alluding to shortly after I'm elected. And to do that, to hear them, you got to elect me. That's kind of a lead-in situation. But I urge you to give me your vote. Let me have a chance to make change. We need some change. It's not major structural change, but sometimes boards and committees need a little prod, need a little different thoughts than they've been getting and been fed by the press, for example. And you gotta look into these things. And I didn't say which press, but I said the press.
I didn't say anything.
Yeah, and I'm one of those guys. I can only take so much canned answers to things. I want greater transparency, more questions from the board, back and forth with the board, more involvement. I hate to say this, but I don't think the board is involved up to the capabilities. They're much more capable than the people are seeing, and I want that to be straightened out. And as I say, vote for me and you'll find out what the 5 points are. That's it. Thanks, I got my...
Would you like a little more time?
I would, as a matter of fact. I would like more
Oh,
time.
I'm sorry. Time is
But I
up.
kind of run, that's exactly, I'm sort of a pragmatic guy. I like to do things that have results and are for the people. I don't want report 63 page B, this committee says that. I am unimpressed by that. And we've got a great town here. Let's keep it that way. Bill was right on that. The town is a great place. And otherwise I'd be in Florida. But
Okay, Mr. Goguen? Thank you, Mr. George.
that's it, I guess. He's cutting me off, so. Phil?
Thank you, Mr. George. I only met Mr. George at a bean counting meeting, and then I started phoning him because I plan on making a presentation, and over the months, it's been 3 years probably now, he's given me a lot of good advice. Some of it has been to shut up, Phil.
Well, I could give you more advice about bean counting but if I had a half an hour, but I haven't got it.
you haven't-
I know why
you-
bean
you-
counting was there.
Mr.
Invented. I was
Mr.
on
Goguen,
the
are you-
board.
are you
I
giving
probably
Mr.
came
George
up with
some of
the
your
term,
time?
I'm
You
sorry?
got 2 minutes. Are you giving Mr. George some of your time?
Have another program some other time.
All right. Well, we can do that, but they asked me to keep it to 2 minutes apeace. So,
I'm
Mr.
not
Goguen, do you have
prepared
anything
do
else
that.
to say?
No, Goggen's still got,
Yeah.
I keep coming back to communications, and
that's about it, isn't it?
when Eddie Rauscher was on the board for the first time, I was working my butt off, but I used to watch, because he grew up with my son, I used to watch him, and I said, Jesus, this kid's so far ahead. But every time something came up, he would say, how's that going to affect the taxpayer? How's that going to affect the seniors? And as far as I know, and as long as I watched him, he always had that. I'm not patting him on the back for any particular reason, but it's a fact that he took care of the seniors and he did ask and watch the tax rate. Taxes are chasing a lot of people out of town. You can say what you want about the schools, bringing people in, but if people can't afford to come into the town, and the people that do come in, I just recently wrote this, the people that do come in, if they can afford the town, chances are they can afford to send their kids to a private school. Charter schools are another story that I don't understand, but it seems to me there's got to be something to it, because there are people waiting in line to get on a lottery list to get into a charter school. So my experience has been in front of the selectmen. I kind of given up on the FinCom. In fact, I fell asleep there one night. I'm kidding you not. That the town needs a good looking over, and it's got to start with the selectmen.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Mr. Rauscher.
Thanks, Tom. I just want to touch on a couple of things that Mr. George said. First, about reports. I pointed out a report earlier. It's been my experience that the town employees that we have that work with either on their own or with consultants to develop recommendations are a cornerstone of how the selectmen set policy, and not just the selectmen, the school committee also. So, I think the seat of the pants sort of let's just make it up as we go approach really hasn't been productive and is not the right way to go. Furthermore, I've heard this refrain that the Board of Selectmen need to be more involved. It's no mistake that in each one of these questions tonight that you mentioned, and I'm not here to defend the board, but I'm here to defend myself and my record. Each one of these questions you asked, you may have noted that I'm involved in each one of these processes intimately. I'm a roll up your hands kind of guy. But it's my pleasure to serve. I love doing it, and that's why I'm here. And if you ask any of the people that serve with me, I think they'll tell you that I'm tireless, open-minded, creative, and decisive. If those are qualities you like in a selectman, then I ask for your vote next Tuesday.
How about humble?
Humble too, yes. Add that to the list.
Thank you.
Humble also.
So that concludes our presentation. I want to thank ICAM for bringing you folks out, and really more than that, thank you for doing what you do. We are all in your debt for being in service, and you're a testament to the adage that getting involved is a political duty for people in this country. And we thank you very much. We look forward to seeing you voters tomorrow night at town meeting, May 10th, starting at 7 o'clock at the IPAC, and then a week from tomorrow, the 17th, the polls are open at the crack of dawn and they close at 8 o'clock at night, and please vote. Thank you very much.